The India-Pakistan dispute has been all over the news in the past couple of weeks, but tensions don't seem to be de-escalating at this point. So in a fearsome 24-hour spell, 6 civilians on either side, as well as 2 Pakistani military troops have been killed, unfortunately. So I think the worst affected people right now are the people who are living in the villages. I mean, I think just in the last week, over a dozen people have lost their lives just in the villages, civilians.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everybody's saying. There's this shelling going on, continuing to happen across the line of control. I mean, a lot of people are having to vacate their houses. A lot of people are still there and they're getting shot and killed. In fact, there was an article in The Guardian a few days ago, yesterday, and they were saying, well, man, let's just get it over with. Let's have an all-out war so that we finally figure out what the new status quo is, which is a horrible way to solve this conflict.
Exactly. I mean, they're living in bunkers. I mean, that's how bad the situation is. But just to give you a quick summary of what went wrong just in the past few weeks. So it all started on the 14th of February when a suicide bombing in Kashmir took place, where 40 Indian paramilitaries died. And this attack was claimed by Jaish-e-Mohammed, which India claims is a Pakistani militant force. So after this, Indians have been carrying out a number of preemptive strikes against the militants blamed for it. So because of which, on Tuesday, which is when this entire problem re-escalated, so to speak, they crossed the Pakistani airspace and they ended up bombing a few spaces there.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, what happened was that after the Pulwama attack, there was a huge cry that India needed to retaliate, and they went and attacked this place called Balakot. Now, interestingly, there's 2 places called Balakot. There's one in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is the northern province of Pakistan, which is quite deep into Pakistan territory, and then there's another one which is in what they call Azad Kashmir, which is closer to which is part of Greater Kashmir and a lot closer to the Indian border. The camp supposedly is near Azad Kashmir. And well, the Indian side says that it attacked the camp and killed 350 or so militants over there. But there's been no video evidence or any kind of evidence or funerals or people perform mourning or anything like that to be able to prove that. Pakistan says that the Indian jets attacked a forest, which is just quite strange.
And the thing is, there's no evidence being released by both parties. So, that's why I think that's where the entire misinformation problem arises. But again, just to give you a timeline quickly. So this happened on Tuesday when the Indian aircraft crossed the airspace there. And on Wednesday, there was a fighter jet that was shot down, which is where the Indian pilot Abhinandan was. But again, there was a goodwill gesture from Pakistan where Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan said that he was going to be released and sent back home, which happened the very next day. So I think he had to spend about 60 hours in custody and then he was sent back home.
Yeah, I mean, the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has been quite vocal in saying, let better sense prevail. We do not want an escalation of this conflict because, as he's saying, World War I was started in similar circumstances and ended up lasting 6 years. The Vietnam War lasted 17 years. The Afghanistan wars lasted 16 years. So basically, what he's saying is, both of us can start a war. We won't know how to end it.
Exactly.
And obviously, there's a lot of political things going on on the back as well. I mean, Pakistan has a situational relationship with its military right now. India has election season coming up.
Yeah.
So there is an appetite for war in both countries, but there's also a huge appetite to not go to war because of where does this end? They're both nuclear powered countries.
And exactly, both countries are, I think, divided within themselves as well when it comes to going for war, say no to war. So I think there's a huge mass of the educated millennials, I would say, who are saying no to war, and there's the whole hashtag that's doing the rounds, and which is probably a more rational way of looking at the whole issue. But again, sentiments have been playing a huge role in all of this. And then there was this video that was released, and it was put on the Pakistan official page of Pakistan, and then it was taken down. Can you tell us more about the video?
So Abhinandan was obviously, the Pakistani military didn't want him to get hurt, even though when he landed, there was a mob around him, and they, he 5 minutes ago he was an Indian trying to attack them with a plane. Yeah. Then the Pakistani army saved him from the mob, and they treated him, and they made a bunch of videos asking him if he was married. And if he liked the tea. And then they, made another video, and in that one, Abhinandan is talking about, how great the Pakistani armed forces are and other things like that. Now, that was viewed, I think, in both countries as a bad PR move, because there was no real need to publish that video.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also something that, anybody in that sort of circumstance would film, even if they didn't release it at the time. It was considered a bad PR move, and obviously, like, the media, really jumped on it. The media has actually been like a huge problem.
Exactly, and that is what Abhinandam also said in this entire video. He ended up lauding the Pakistani military and criticizing his own media, and I think they've played a massive role in just sort of propagating the entire sentiment and the emotional. They've probably been like leveraging on it, right, for just more coverage and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, like, if you go through the clips, there's been a lot of like media talk saying, there needs to be an answer, there needs to be retaliation. And then when Abhinandam was captured, there was this feeling like, okay, maybe we might have like blustered a bit too much, and let better sense actually prevail. And then, there's been calls from, the opposition parties, for instance, in India, and stuff saying like, that there's a way to end this, let's de-escalate. So then the media sort of went on the back foot, and now it's like they're hosting these debates.
And the worst thing is just the false information that has been coming out in the media. But again, speaking of all of this, we need to speak about the war rhetoric, and I know what's happening in India right now. So the war rhetoric has been extremely strong, where Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been going out and saying that, we're not going to keep quiet, we are going to take some action. And I'm going to quote him here, but he actually said that no one could dare threaten a new, fearless and decisive India, which is obviously a jab at the previous government. And he also did mention the very, very controversial Rafale fighter jets deal. So we've been talking about it since the time Rahul Gandhi came here, and that's been very controversial, and that's been embroiled in corruption allegations by the opposition party, of course. But he took this opportunity to sort of mention that, and he also ended up saying that, if that deal was signed, this would have definitely helped us in this particular situation.
Well, yeah, and in Pakistan, there's this, the overall general realization is that, this is probably not the time to go to war, considering that Pakistan's financial situation has been quite precarious over the last, let's say, year. So Pakistan has about $8 billion in foreign exchange reserves in the bank. India has 4,008. And so that's obviously not going to help if you're trying to, like, play off a really costly sort of war. The general idea in Pakistan is that this time there's a prime minister who might maybe have some sway with the military, but only up to a certain extent. And he's kind of hinted at it and said, like, there's only a point at which I can control this. And so there is the feeling that this is kind of a new Pakistan, which, just because there's a new leader and he's trying to convince his people to go in that direction. But there's also so many other power plays going on. Pakistan's trying to create Saudi alliances. Pakistan's creating Chinese alliances. India has a Russian alliance that's very historic in the background.
But that's one thing, right? So in spite of all of these alliances, I think all of the foreign countries who've been slightly involved in this entire chaos that has been taking place, they've all been saying no to war. They've all been trying to sort of de-escalate the tensions, and they're trying to act as pacifiers in all of this. So I think the US has been doing that now. I think Adil Al-Jubair, who is the Minister of State of Foreign Affairs from Saudi Arabia, he's in Islamabad right now speaking to them. So I think
which was also a bit of a thing, because he was supposed to go to Islamabad first and then New Delhi, but then he decided to go to New Delhi first and then Islamabad.
Exactly.
And then this whole OIC meeting that happened that Pakistan boycotted, but India was invited to, and Pakistan's a founding member. And then everybody thought, everybody in Pakistan was like, what a bad move by the government. And then the OIC published a resolution against aggression in Kashmir, and then people in Pakistan were like, wow, great move. So nobody really knows what's going on.
Exactly. But in this entire OIC thing, His Highness Sheikh Nahyan was obviously lauded for his efforts and for his role as a pacifier in all of this. But yes, there's still a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos, and we just hope that more misinformation is not being spread at this point. So there's just so much tension on so many different grounds, but we just hope that on both sides there's not more casualties coming, and we don't really want to hear more news about that, at least. But thank you for watching today's edition of Inside AB. We will be back again tomorrow with another set of news stories. So don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe.